What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Infamous Project. Today's episode, or should I say tonight's episode, I'm super excited for a number of reasons. As you can tell, we are decorated and in theme for my favorite time of the year. Number two, we get to showcase some brand new merch. That is right, get your brand new Shipbox Fox merch at theinfamousproject.com. Be sure to check that out. And number three, and probably most important, we finally get to put the topic to rest. So that's right, folks. Me and Mr. KSD Notch, aka Blue Oval Media, have been going back and forth for quite some time talking about the Black Notch curse. And it is not just the Black Notch. In fact, it originated with the one and only stalker vert that's sitting right here behind me. It is the Black Fox curse, because it seems that any black Foxbody or 5.0 that I've gotten my hands on, there's always been something. It's like these cars are possessed by like creepy little girls or skeletons, demons. I don't know what it is. There's something, these cars need exorcisms. I swear, there's just something about them. And I'm here to tell you a real story. Guys, this isn't inspired by true events. This isn't based on true events. This story is going to be actual events that happened. And I'm here to tell you that this chain of events that happened with this car sitting here behind me is a story that makes me fearless for any other road trip that I will ever go on in my lifetime. The recent Shipbox Fox journey all the way here from Texas to Detroit, fearless. Didn't care we were blowing belts. Didn't care we were overheating. It wouldn't have mattered what happened on that trip. It never would have been as bad as the story I'm about to tell you in this video. So let's get into it. Let's rewind the clock back to 2005. In fact, it was March of 2005. And I can tell you, there was still snow on the ground. And I just installed the supercharger on this car. The car was still in its first iteration of change. So when I first got it, it was stock. Then it went straight to paint, and it was a gloss black with a House of Colors white ice pearl. Car looked great, and it was parked for the winter. But my friend Joel, very close friend of mine, and in fact, we were just in Florida the other day. And part of this trip inspired this video and the story that I'm about to tell you, because me and Joel were the ones who took the journey in the car. And on this trip, we were actually at Universal Studios at Halloween Horror Nights, you know, living through all of the spooktacular haunted houses and everything else that they have to offer. And it's like, it sort of clicked. I'm like, it's the perfect time of year, perfect setting that we have here. Let's tell the scariest story involving a Foxbody that I've ever witnessed. So we're winding the clock back to 2005 of March. And Joel comes to me and says, "Hey, Chris, do you want to come down to Florida and help me paint my dad's Porsche?" And I'm like, sure, why not? You know, it's March, there's snow on the ground. I'd recently, I was done with university and everything else. I don't even know if I was working or what was going on, but I'm just like, yeah, dude, let's do it. So his dad had this rough racing early 80s Porsche 930. In fact, Joel has this car still now to this day. Beautiful car. And it was a long-term project, which, you know, we were packed up. We knew it was going to take a couple months to get this car right. And I was going to be doing a lot of the wiring and stereo install, and of course, helping Joel out with the body and paint. Now, Joel is the one who actually painted my white Notch sitting up on the lift behind me. In fact, he painted the strawberry car sitting next to it. He's even repainted, and the most recent paint job on the Stalker Vert was actually one of his paint jobs. So you can see me and Joel go way back, and we were up for the challenge. So what car do we drive down? That's right. So we're planning out this journey. And of course, we're trying to look at the weather and forecast, and the weatherman's always wrong. They don't know shit. All that we know is that we have two major ways that we can get from where we live in Ontario, Canada, down to Florida. We can kind of go southwest, cross through Detroit and take I-75 all the way down, or we can go a little northeast, cross through New York, like Syracuse area, and follow I-95 all the way down. So the I-75 version of these two verticals are the ones that are closer to the Great Lakes, and where it seemed that there was going to be potentially some bad weather. So we said to ourselves, let's take the safe route. It might be a little bit longer. And guys, if you're not familiar with the drive, it's about 24 hours. By the time you stop for gas, you get something to eat, you do whatever it is, you're at 24 hours total drive time. Now, important fact about the Stalker Vert, it does not have heat. In fact, it doesn't even have the lines on the lower intake manifold if you wanted to hook the heater core up. So heat is out of the question. And if I remember correctly, the weather was hovering right around the freezing mark during the day. And of course, at night, it would go down substantially back into freezing weather. So our train of thought, let's leave in good time in the morning, and we'll have the sun shining in the windshield and through the windows, and the sun will keep us warm enough during daylight hours. And hopefully, by the time that the sun goes down, we're south enough that it's warmer and we don't have to worry about freezing ourselves in the car. So, great plan, is it not? The only thing is, we didn't really have that much daylight, because up there, not only is there daylight savings, which is a whole other conversation and bullshit, but the days are super short. So you're looking at probably leaving at 9 a.m. and you want to make sure that you're ready for 5 p.m. because that sun drops quickly. So we have our duffel bags, we do all the preparation, and guys, it's one of those things, like, you can only be so prepared. I had a little backpack that had basic hand tools like spark plug socket, your 10 millimeter, your 1/2 inch, wrenches, sockets, all that good stuff. And it's really all you can do. What you don't bring, you're going to end up needing, and what you do bring, you're not going to end up needing. And it's just the way that it goes. So we did have some tools with us. We got our duffel bags of clothes. We got gloves. We're wearing skate shoes or basketball shoes, or whatever the hell it is that we were wearing back then. And we had our MapQuest directions, because guys, 2005, like, my cell phone was the old Nextel two-way beep beep walkie-talkie featured phone. Like, you're not browsing Google, you're not checking the weather radar, you're not doing any of these things. So we were trying to be as prepared and planned as possible. So right before we leave, my mom, being a mom, comes out and hands me this cigarette lighter heater. Like, you're supposed to put it on your dash, and I think your air vents are supposed to blow the heat out that it makes. Like, I'm going to find a picture of this thing and post it up so you guys can see it, but it's... You'll hear about it later. As soon as we start getting cold, let me tell you, this thing did nothing. But anyways, it was great gesture, as moms do. We get in the car and we start driving. So we're heading up past, down the 401, past Kingston, north side of Kingston, and we start approaching the border. And at this point, the sun is shining, everything is going according to plan. We start smelling like rotten eggs. And like, this car doesn't have catalytic converters, so they can't be clogged up or heated up and smelling. And maybe it was just something in the air. We didn't know. We just kind of dismissed it. So we pull up to the customs booth and, we tell the customs officer we're going down for a few months, not to work, just to have fun and, help out Joel's dad. And they let us in. And as soon as we cross the border, there's more clouds and a little bit more overcast. And the smell of these rotten eggs continues to get worse. So being that we're trying to follow our MapQuest directions, we're not trying to deviate too far off things. So we look for, an exit sign that has a lot of amenities around it, and we pull off. And I remember we popped the trunk and it was like, man, the battery was like sizzling, it was stinking, and like, what the hell? Like, the battery is like melting itself. So we managed to disconnect the battery, we're wearing gloves, throw the battery in a snowbank, and it's like just melting the snow and it's sizzling, and we're just like, okay, the battery is messed up, and it was a brand new yellow top Optima. Now, the thing, a lot of people have different opinions about Optimas, but let me tell you, back then I feel like they had a proper warranty and they shouldn't have been doing that. So we find a little shop that was nearby and end up buying an Interstate normal acid style battery. We put it in the car, and unfortunately it doesn't have side posts, and the positive side post that I had connected to the Optima was for the stereo. So now we have no heat, we have no music, and the sun is starting to go away pretty quickly in our travels because, I think we left late. By the time we crossed the border and everything else, it was probably 1 or 2 p.m. We got something to eat after we dealt with the battery situation. And we got a lot of ground to cover at this point, but not a lot of daylight left. So we start driving, we're back on the road, and snowflakes are starting at this point to develop. We're like, okay, keep driving. The sun is starting to go down and things are starting to get cold and it's starting to get windy. So again, we couldn't check the radar. We didn't really know what was going on, other than the fact that we're pretty much driving through a snow belt. And once you cross through New York, it's one of the Virginias, and you're into mountainous territory. So we had done the drive before. We were aware of where we were going. I think just mentally, we were hopeful that everything was going to go according to plan. So it's getting dark. Headlights on a Foxbody, especially smoked headlights on a Foxbody, you're running the high beams. You have no choice because all you want to do is be able to see. And you got snow coming, and guys, I kid you not, the snow was coming in between the top and the top of the windshield. Like, snow is coming in the car. And the passenger was tasked with heating up the shoe of the throttle foot of the driver. So we were literally, the driver would take off his throttle shoe, pass it to the passenger would hold the lighter in the shoe and hold, the lighter in there till everything got nice and warm and toasty. Then you put your shoe back on while you're driving, and you get a couple minutes of warmth in your shoe. So guys, the roads are starting to get covered in snow at this point. So where we have speed limits that are normally 60, 65, we're literally doing 45, 40. Then we start seeing cars in the ditch, and we're going through the mountains, and these mountains, like, the grade is so steep, especially going down some of the hills. Like, there are runaway truck ramps. Now, I know some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you're used to like Texas or Arizona or Florida and flat country, like, these hills are no joke. And when you are running in a 5.0 Mustang with Z-rated tires, that is supercharged, and you are in the snow and the roads are snow covered and slippery as hell. Like, yes, there's a battery in the trunk. Yes, there's a stereo in the trunk, maybe adding a little bit of weight for some traction, but like, you can feel the looseness of the car, hence how slow we had to drive. And at this point, your hazards are on to make sure that people can see you. So we're in the middle of nowhere. We really are. I couldn't tell you what if we were in Virginia or West Virginia. We were in the mountains and we see an exit that has accommodations on it. So we pull off and we go to the accommodation and they say, sorry guys, we're full. Well, isn't that wonderful? They're like, you can try the Quality Inn or Holiday Inn or whatever it is that's, up the hill over there. Like, great. Go down the road, we start going up the hill. Guys, the car stops climbing the hill because the road is so slippery. So Joel is driving, I'm outside of the car, I am pushing. We managed to get the car off to the shoulder where it was gravel, so that way we could actually grab or get some traction into something. So it is a nice thing. There's a trick for you. If your roads are slick, the shoulders are probably or hopefully not frozen yet. And with the rocks, you can get a little bit of traction, which is what we managed to do. We finally get up to the hotel and sorry guys, we're out of rooms. Thankfully, they were quite helpful and said, listen, there is a motel down the road going into the little town, because I think we went east off of the interstates, or like if you go west, cross back over the interstate and there's a little motel down the road down there. Here's the number, give them a call. And it was one of those things, like they let you use their phone because cell phones were fairly new at this point, right? So I call. And they say they have 2 rooms left. I said, perfect, save one for us. We're on our way. We just have to come down this mountain hill and we will be there. They said, no problem, sir. We'll hold it for you. So this is where things get very interesting. So I'm going to take a sip of beer. Now, guys, before I get into this part of the story, I was actually inspired to do a video like this after watching Tom MacDonald, the independent rapper. He's out there. If you guys are into hip hop, you probably know who he is. If you don't know who he is, you can look him up, but he's actually got this crazy story that he tells about going to this abandoned town in British Columbia, Canada, called Tranquille, which was like an asylum of tuberculosis cases, and it's like this crazy horror story. So be sure to check. I'm going to link it in this video. So if you guys are interested in another horror story, be sure to check that video out because it's just awesome. So we get in the car and we start coasting down the hill. Again, we don't need power. We don't need to be sliding off the side of the road, ending up in the ditch because, guys, the roads were slick. We're going down. Car dies. We still have lights, ignition power. The car will turn over. And I know I was driving, and I think I just put the car in neutral and I was coasting while, putting the clutch in, trying to start the car. The car will not fire. Like, there's no start in this car. And we just kind of come down the hill. We coast across the intersection of where you get back onto the interstate and you can start to see the lights off in the distance, which we wanted to believe was the motel. And you're just hoping, like, come on, car, come on, just keep rolling. Every 10 feet that this car rolls is potentially 10 feet that we're not going to have to push the car. So the car comes to a stop and we are literally right next to a correctional facility. So God knows if we're going to start seeing some yellow or orange jumpsuits hopping the fence, breaking out in the snowstorm, and then we're just like, no, we're going insane. We don't have that to worry about. But put the 4-ways on, and we're sitting on the side of the road. If I remember correctly, it was actually minus 17 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill that night, and snow blowing. It was a mess, and I'm pretty sure at minus 17 Fahrenheit has caught up to Celsius. So it's negative cold ass double digits, no matter how you look at it. So we're there, we're with our gloves and we're trying to like stay warm. We see some headlights coming, and it's a little Ford Ranger. Guy rolls his window down and he's like yelling because like the wind noise and everything else is loud. He's like, "Are you guys okay?" I'm like, "Do you have a strap?" He's like, "Don't have a strap. Like, can you give me a ride down the road and we can find a strap?" So I get out, and before I leave the car, I say, "Joel, don't leave the car. Or if you leave the car, make sure the door doesn't shut behind you." And there's two reasons for this. First reason, the car has shaved door handles. Second reason is, it's so cold out, the door poppers were frozen. So if the door were to close, and even if he had the key fob, the door wouldn't be opening. Neither door would open. He's like, "Yeah, no problem, I'm good." So the stranger drives me down the road, and it was like a 7-Eleven gas station, and just past that 7-Eleven gas station was the motel. I saw the destination. You know, it's like that mirage of being lost in the desert and you're finally seeing water, but needed to get the stalker vert back. So there's a transport truck driver and he's filling up with gas. I say to him, I'm like, "Man, do you got a strap by chance?" And he's like, "No, but I can cut you off a piece of one." So he cuts off a piece of strap, and man, I forget. For whatever reason, I went in the store real quick, and I don't know if it was to warm up or if I was going to call just to tell the motel that, you know, we were going to be a couple minutes late trying to deal with the situation. And just as I'm about to walk out the store, Joel walks in. I'm like, "Joel, the fuck are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, somebody pulled over to ask if I was okay, and when I got out, and then the wind blew the door shut, and then I was locked out of the car, so they gave me a ride down here." I'm like, "Great, so now we need to get into the car." But whatever, we're safe, we got the strap. The stranger with the Ranger drives us back to the car, and let me tell you, the one thing that you are not going to believe that I was prepared for on this trip was windshield wipers. I put the windshield wipers on the car just in case. Needed to clear the glass despite waxing the windshield and saying I never need to have windshield wipers. They were on the car, and it was the saving grace to get us back into the car. I took off one of the wiper arms and I slid it in between the glass and the door weather strip. In fact, I chipped the glass. The chip is still in there. The window tint is covering it just a little bit, and I managed to get that arm in there and around the door handle, and I popped that driver's side door open. And to this day, I still don't even know how I managed to do it, because like my fingers were numb. It's one of those things you can't do with gloves on. You're reaching and it's like you're rubbing your hands together and you're blowing, trying to keep yourself warm and just taking like incremental attempts at trying to get this done. And it wasn't just done in like the first try. It took a couple times before I finally got into the car. So we popped the hood. We're looking where to strap the car. The car's so damn low, we wrapped the strap around the rad support and put it around his tow hitch or whatever we tied it onto, and he tows us down the road to the motel. Finally. Now, I don't know what time it was at this point, but let me tell you, even though that this chain of events sounds like things were just, you know, going along in a pretty orderly fashion, guys, they were not. Between the battery, eating, driving super slow, all the hotels that said that they were full, now all this. So it's late. Joel was calling his parents, giving them the update. I was calling my parents, giving them the update. Hey, we're okay. Everything is fine. We're delayed. We made it. Everything's going to be okay. We pass out. So wake up the next morning and start going through the phone book, which wasn't very big. This was a small town. Everybody probably knew everybody that lived there. And I find a local parts store, I call them up, and I'm asking for a TFI module, because what else causes your Foxbody to randomly stop driving, stop running, other than the TFI module? Of course, I didn't bring one. So they say, yeah, we got one in stock. And I'm like, let me try and find a ride up there. There's no taxis. There's no Ubers at, in 2005 in a small town. So I walk outside. I find someone in the parking lot. I'm like, can you give me a ride to the parts store? They drive me up to the parts store. I get the TFI module. I get the little TFI tool, that 5.5 millimeter or whatever it is, little socket that you need to be able to get the module off. Get back to the car. It is no warmer outside. Like, it's still minus double digits during the day. It's windy as hell. And I'm like, I'm not trying to change this out here in the snow, in the cold. I take the little distributor hold down bolt out, pop out the distributor, go into the hotel room. I set the distributor down on a little coffee table, and I hear tink, tink, tink. The piece inside the distributor decides to just fall right out onto the table. It's not the TFI module at this point. It's something inside the distributor. So back to the phone book, local wrecking yards. I find one, they're like, yeah, we have a 302 TFI style distributor here, 20 bucks. So out in the parking lot I go, flag down somebody else. And, at this point, I think this wrecking yard was about 12 miles away. So like, I'll give you 20 bucks. I need a ride to this wrecking yard. So you take me out. I'm going down these windy roads, middle of nowhere. I swear it's like the hills have eyes. Like, no wrecking yard is really that welcoming looking, let alone one that's in the middle of nowhere and countryside. So I walk into this place. They had the distributor laying on the counter, thankfully. I give them the 20 bucks, get a ride back, give the guy who gave me the ride the 20 bucks. And do you think I remember which direction the rotor was facing when I popped that distributor out? Of course not. I was too cold. So now, thankfully, I had my spark plug socket. Trying to take out number one spark plug when you got a Vortec and a power pipe, and the AC lines were actually still on the car, even though the AC didn't work. Not that we needed AC to work when we're freezing our damn asses off. So take the spark plug out. I'm trying to get something. I'm trying to find top dead center. And of course, I have nothing to put a wrench down on the crank, so it's all bumping the key, trying to get it at the exact right spot. And, I'm 180 degrees off. I'm bumping it more. I'm running inside the hotel room. I'm coming out of the hotel room after warming up a little bit and just trying to keep warm and get this done. And finally, the car starts. I don't have a timing light. I don't have any. It's just, let me turn the distributor and give it some throttle. And Joel, it sounds good around there. Lock it down, send it. It's late in the afternoon, exhausted from all this rigmarole and everything that's happened. We get in the car, we haul ass, and thankfully, there was no other issues all the way to Florida. But the story isn't over. So we're in Florida, working on the Porsche, everything's going smooth, and I think it was like the next weekend, I said, hey Joel, man, I'm gonna go up and visit Lewis for the weekend, and Lewis is the gentleman who I actually originally bought the stocker vert from, so it'd be nice to go and hang out with, show him the car. I don't think he had seen the car since I had it painted and, had the new ROH wheels and everything else on it. So I get like a mile down the road from Joel's dad's place where we were staying. And I'm not smelling rotten eggs this time. I'm smelling like melting plastic. I'm like, that's odd. And then all of a sudden I'm going around a corner, real slow, 25 mile an hour road in a residential area. Car dies. Like everything. It's not just the motor, it's the lights, everything. Dead. I Armstrong it off to the side of the road, and now I see smoke pouring from behind the rear seat. And, I get out of the car and I'm looking, there's smoke coming out of the trunk. And I'm like, holy shit, the car is on fire. I'm like calling Joel on my phone real quick. I'm like, dude, bring me a fire extinguisher. I'm just down the road. So I'm outside of the car, and the first thing that I want to do is get to the trunk and see what's melting. But My battery's been relocated to the trunk. My lock cylinder's shaved off the trunk. I have no power to be able to hit the trunk release button in the glove box. My key fob's not working. All I could do was hold the driver's side door as tightly shut as I could without it latching to prevent oxygen or any more oxygen to get inside the car. And the smoke slowly subsides. Joel rolls up. He's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, dude, I have no friggin' idea. So same thing. I think we still had the strap around the radiator support, tows me back to his dad's place. And I think what we did is we put some jumper cables on the starter solenoid under the hood and another one just grounded, managed to get power back to the car, got into the trunk, and the ground wire was just absolutely melted and fried. So something had gone wrong. Who knows what it is? Charging system related, ground wire related, but let me tell you, that next day, I relocated that battery back to the front and I never had another issue. And that is the end of that particular story and journey in the Stalker Vert. There's more. And that's why I say it's the curse of the Black Fox. A year later, driving this car back up to Canada, alternator went out 5 hours into the trip. It was past 9 p.m. There was no AutoZone, there was no Advance, there was no O'Reilly's. And I was driving this car, my friend was driving my white Notch up there. Both cars had Optimas in them at that point, and every time we stopped for gas, we swapped the Optimas over, and it'd be just enough juice to keep everything charged, the lights on, and going in between every single gas stop. But it was an issue. Then we run into projects like Project Tax Return. We have Project Disaster Recovery. We have all of these other black foxes that I have run into issues with. However, this story in this car takes the cake. And I hope that the curse of the Black Fox is now over. But I wanted to share that story with you guys. And I'm sure everybody has a story like this one. But it is that story which makes you invincible for any other road trip or journey you might be going on. Like, I know either you yourself or you have that friend and you're cruising your car and it's like, oh, what was that noise? I don't know if I've heard that noise before. It's like, are we going to make it? Is everything okay? And you're just like paranoid the whole damn time of your trip instead of enjoying your trip. That's why this story in this journey, in the Stalker Vert, nothing is going to beat what we went through. Like, that was the worst. I would be more comfortable changing a motor on the side of the road than I would be to have to relive this whole journey again. So there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the story of the curse of the Black Fox. And I hope that you guys have an amazing Halloween. Foxtoberfest is right around the corner. I hope to see a bunch of you guys there. And for anybody who's watching this video later, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for your support. And until next time, we will see you back here on the Infamous Project with maybe some more scary stories.